Hi guys! So for this sewing project, I purchased this top off of eBay and I really like the overall style of it. It had some really beautiful flowing sleeves that I really loved. There was only a couple of issues. I thought the neckline was a bit too low for me. And I thought the hips needed to be a little bit wider. So I definitely needed to make the bottom a little bit wider there for my taste. So this is the final project that I'm going to be taking you guys through. So to deal with the neckline, which wasn't quite right for me, I've added this floral ruffle just to bring the neckline up a couple of inches. And I'm adding some fun flowers. And on the sides, I've just added a little bit of fabric just to make it a little more flowy, just to make it closer to the kind of style that I'm used to wearing. So let's get started. So my first step is to deal with the neckline. So I found this really delicate, beautiful floral print. The width is about 5 inches. And I used 5 inches just so I could fold it onto itself, which will give me about 2.5 inches less exposed neckline, just to bring it up about 2.5 inches, just so I don't feel so exposed. And I'm using these colorful clips just to keep it in place before I do the sewing. So just to keep this stitch in place while I'm working with it, what I'm doing is just kind of a loop kind of stitch. Just a very quick and easy kind of stitch, just to keep it in place while I'm working with it. So to start off the ruffle, what I'm doing is just a straight stitch, and I'm just keeping my stitches just as long as possible. And after I finish gathering up the material, I'm using these bright and colorful clips just to keep them in place. Just long enough so I can actually pin the material to the shirt. After you do these ruffles, the ruffles will just move around on you like crazy. So I definitely recommend using some clips or pins just to make it so you don't have to readjust your ruffles as you're sewing. And here's the ruffle all pinned up. Just doing one final check to make sure everything looks good. So this is the initial sewing of the ruffle to the shirt. And I'm just being really cautious, trying to only grab one layer of fabric just so the stitching doesn't show through to the outside. And I usually have to adjust my pins as I go because the thread will get caught on the pins. It's a little bit tedious, but just keep going. And after I sewed the ruffle to the shirt, I realized it was very loose. It didn't feel really secure. So I'm actually doing another stitch on the other side of the ruffle just to keep it in place. And again, the stitching that I'm doing, I'm trying just to make sure, you know, the stitching isn't too visible. So I'm trying to snag the material at the very top of the original neckline. So this is the material that I'm going to be using on the side of the shirt. I thought it would be fun to use a slightly different material. So I thought yellow and blue really go well together. So the first step is to get out my seam ripper and actually take out the existing seam. And after you rip apart the seams, then you need to kind of clean it up a bit. So this is the cutout piece. And I've pinned the new fabric to the existing shirt. And I'm using an overlock stitch just to sew the new material to the existing shirt. And an overlock stitch is a pretty secure stitch, so I want to make sure that this new piece of fabric isn't going to come loose. It is going to get a lot of wear and tear, as you're taking it off and putting it on. So I want to make sure it's really going to be a good stitch. So this is the material all sewn in. So actually, after I did the sewing, I realized the original stitching left these little tiny holes. So I want to deal with these little holes just by doing a new straight stitch right over them, just so these tiny little holes are not visible to the outside. Now it's time to do the flowers. So these are the two pieces of materials that I will be working with for the flowers. So I cut out these flowers from a pattern, and I've added a layer of jersey material in the middle. So there's a a fabric of blue, there's a jersey material, and then on the other side there's the blue pattern again. So it's actually got 3 layers. I think the jersey material really helps just to give it a little more structure, just to make it easier to sew on. Because I'm actually going to be sewing these layers together and then sewing it to the shirt. So I wanted to make sure that the materials could actually take all of this sewing that I'm going to be doing to it. And I'm doing this overlock stitch to sew all the materials together. So I initially thought I would just do a few stitches, and then I realized that it really wasn't enough. So I'm going over all of the stitches one more time. And this is the middle of the flower. And I've actually got 3 layers of the jersey material on this. I wanted to raise it up just a little bit, just to make it a little more of a different dimension than the blue petals. And I'm using the same stitch as I used with the petals, so an overlock stitch. And the size of the material is just really small. really kind of tedious, and just a much smaller area to work in for the stitching. So now what I'm doing is sewing the yellow material to the blue material. And I'm using these clips just to keep them in place, just so it doesn't move around on me too much. And I put the shirt back on the mannequin just so I could place the flowers, just to make sure the flowers are in a place that I want them to be in. And once I was satisfied with that, I took it off the mannequin and put a few more pins in it just to make sure that it stays in place. And I'm just doing a straight stitch all around, just to adhere all of the petals to the shirt. And here is the ruffle. And I really love how that turned out. It just looks really nice. And the flowers, I like my color choices. The fabrics are just slightly similar, but just a little bit different. Kind of makes it an interesting combination of colors. And then I've got my swatch of fabric on the side. I think all these different colors just make it kind of quilty and, you know, kind of cottagecore and really a fun mix of materials. Thank you everybody for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I hope you have a great day.